Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the podcast. And today, I'm going to do my review of AEW's Dynamite. Starting off tonight, we have Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay in the ring, face-to-face. Both Omega and Ospreay have a microphone. Ospreay tells Omega that a lot has changed in AEW since he's been gone. Ospreay talks about Don Callis' family as well as Jon Moxley. Ospreay then tells Omega that he cannot take on Moxley and Don Callis' family alone. Omega then talks about the history that he's had with Ospreay. Omega says that Ospreay isn't better than Omega right now. Omega says that he doesn't trust Ospreay after what happened the last time they were in the ring together. After that, Don Callis interrupts Ospreay and Omega. Don Callis' family then fight Omega. Ospreay then attacks Kyle Fletcher. Don Callis' family then attack Ospreay. Omega and Ospreay then put Archer through a table. Omega hits a moonsault off the structures, and Ospreay hits a moonsault off the balcony. Omega then announces that it will be himself and Ospreay taking on Takeshita and Kyle Fletcher for AEW's Grand Slam. Moving on from that, we go into our first official match of the night. It is the Hurt Syndicate taking on Private Party for the AEW Tag Team Championships. I thought it was a decent match, back and forth matchup between Private Party and the Hurt Syndicate, with the Hurt Syndicate keeping the pace of the match. Lashley then puts Isaiah through an announce table on the outside. Quinn then hits a 450, but Lashley then hits a spear on Isaiah Cassidy, pins for the 3, and your winners of the match and new AEW Tag Team Champions are the Hurt Syndicate. Hats off to the Hurt Syndicate for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we have Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett comes out to the ring, grabs a microphone. Jarrett talks about Jerry Lawler. Jarrett also talks about MJF. Jarrett calls out MJF. Calls him a one-hit wonder. Jarrett then says that the fans gave him the belief that he can win the AEW World title. Jarrett then calls out Moxley, but instead Claudio comes out to the ring to attack Jarrett. Claudio tells Jarrett that he's got to go through him first before he gets to Moxley. And it looks like we're going to get Jarrett versus Claudio Castagnoli next week. And if Jarrett beats Claudio successfully, Jarrett will get a title shot against Jon Moxley. Some interesting stuff there with Jeff Jarrett. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. AR Fox taking on Swerve Strickland. I thought it was a good match. Back and forth matchup between Fox and Swerve, with Swerve keeping the pace of the match. AR Fox then hits a moonsault off the ring post on Swerve to the outside. Ricochet is here. Ricochet causes the distraction, but Swerve hits a rolling flatliner on AR Fox, as well as a house call. Swerve then goes to the top rope, hits a Swerve stomp off the top rope on AR Fox, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Swerve Strickland. After the match, Ricochet was shown on the Titantron pretty much threatening Prince Nana. Moving on from that, we have an MJF segment. MJF comes out the ring, grabs a microphone. MJF says that Jarrett is owed an apology. MJF then says Jarrett can't win the title without him. MJF then mocks Jarrett. MJF says that wrestling doesn't love Jarrett. MJF says that it's better to make a deal with the devil than to find him. After that, he's interrupted by Adam Page. Adam Page then tells MJF to leave. And then we get an impromptu matchup between Adam Page and a jobber. This was a glorified squash match with Page keeping the pace of the match. Page then hits the finish, pins for the 3, and the winner of the match is Adam Page. After the match, Page then attacks the jobber. Christopher Daniels is here. He's standing on the stage. Daniels says that he wanted to be friends with Adam Page. Daniels says that Page wins. And Christopher Daniels also announces that he was retired from in-ring action. Moving on from that, we have Julia Hart taking on Jamie Hayter in the second match between Hart and Hayter. I thought it was a good match. It was a back-and-forth matchup between Hart and Hayter, with Hayter keeping the pace of the match. Hayter and Hart then both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Hayter hitting multiple German suplexes on Hart in the middle of the ring. Hayter then hits a Hayter raid on Julia Hart, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Jamie Hayter. After the match, Jamie grabs a microphone and says that she has a lot of respect for Julia Hart. She even praises Julia Hart and tells Julia Hart that if she wants a third match, she's got it. So it looks like we might possibly get a third match here between Jamie Hayter and Julia Hart. Moving on from that, we go to the main event of AEW Dynamite. It is Pac taking on Cope. I thought it was a good match. Back and forth matchup between Pac and Cope, with Pac keeping the pace of the match. Cope hits a impaler on Pac. Pac then gets up, applies a brutalizer on Adam Copeland, but the hold is broken. Pac then applies another brutalizer, but the hold is broken again. Cope then hits 2 spears on Pac. as well as a cutter, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Cope. After the match, the Death Riders were shown on the Titantron attacking FTR and the Rock and Roll Express. Death Riders then come out to the ring. They attack Copeland. Jay White is here. Jay White tries to attack the Death Riders, but the Death Riders get the attack on Jay White. A couple things I want to talk about, man, when it pertains to AEW Dynamite before I get the hell up out of here. Number one, let's talk about Dynamite, man. And to be honest with you, I don't want to sound like a broken record. The beginning of the show, Omega and Ospreay, there was a lot of good that came out of that and some bad. The good out of that whole segment last night was the fact that it felt fresh. And whoever wrote that, I thought it did a great job. The fact that obviously Ospreay has unfinished business with the Don Callis family, specifically Kyle Fletcher. And then having Omega a part of that. See, when Omega and Ospreay came out to the middle of the ring, initially I thought we might get Omega versus Ospreay for Grand Slam, which I will talk about towards the end of the podcast, because Grand Slam is turning into a just utter disaster for AEW, and I'll talk about that later on in the podcast. But, you had Don Callis come out to confront Ospreay and Omega, but instead, the Don Callis family end up attacking Omega. Ospreay then saves Omega by attacking the Don Callis family. And it looks like we are going to get Ospreay teaming up with Omega to take on Kyle Fletcher and Takeshita at Grand Slam on the 15th of February. But my other issue with this is Kenny Omega. Number one, I'm happy that Kenny Omega is back in the fold of AEW. I'm happy that he's back, and quite frankly, AEW needs Omega back, to be honest with you. My issue with Omega is, the last time that we saw Omega in AEW before he left with diverticulitis, and he was out with that injury, the last time we saw Omega, he was being attacked by the Elite and being mocked by Jack Perry and Okada. Why are we not getting Omega, coming back to AEW? Now he's, back in the fold with AEW once again. Why are we not getting these matches with Omega against the Elite? Why are we not getting Kenny Omega going after Jack Perry? Why are we not getting, the Bucks back and Omega's confronting the Young Bucks? Why are we not getting, this right now? Why are we not getting Omega versus Jack Perry at Grand Slam? Obviously, they're saving Okada and Omega for All In because All In is AEW's biggest pay-per-view of the year, which I get that. But we're not getting any kind of rebuttal from Omega when it pertains to the Elite after what they did to him before he left to deal with diverticulitis. That's what's pissing me off with Omega. Am I all for this tag team matchup? Yeah, Omega and Ospreay are two of the best wrestlers on this planet right now. And to see them take on Kyle Fletcher and Takeshita, I think it's going to be a banger match. I think the match is going to be incredible, and it's going to be a great match for the fans in Australia for Grand Slam. But again, it's just one of those things where, I like the way the segment went, but when it pertains to Omega, Omega has unfinished business with the Elite. And my thing is, the rebuttal from Omega would be attacking or going after what I thought, going after the Elite, whether it be Okada, Jack Perry, or Matt and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks. And there's no plans of a rebuttal from Omega to go after the Elite. We haven't seen Jack Perry on television. We just recently seen Okada, especially when it pertains to the Continental Classic tournament. We have not seen the Young Bucks in a while. And I don't know when they're coming back. Quite frankly, do we need them back? Yes. I think right now with AEW, which I will talk about here towards the end of the podcast, we need everybody on board with AEW right now, because if not, this is a sinking ship. So the Bucks need to come back, especially for the tag team division, because the tag team division is abysmal, which I'm going to talk about here in a second. Speaking of the tag team division, let's get into the match about Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin taking on Private Party. This match was already pretty much hinted around that this was going to happen a couple weeks ago between Private Party and the Hurt Syndicate. A lot of people that I talked to were legitimately pissed off due to the fact that Private Party dropped these belts the way they did last night to the Hurt Syndicate. To be honest with you, was I pissed off? No. Because I knew it was going to happen. I knew Private Party was going to have a short term with those tag team belts, and they were eventually going to go over to Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin. Because at the end of the day, Tony Khan and AEW were not pushing Private Party. I felt as if they didn't give a shit about Private Party. I think it was something where Matt and Nick Jackson wanted to take some time off, and what better way to do that, being at the time AEW Tag Team Champions. Let's get the belts to Private Party, and we're going to take some time off and go home. And that's exactly what they did. It was pretty much, hand over fist, here's the belts, see you all later, and we'll see where this goes. And obviously what Private Party did with those belts was absolutely nothing. The tag team division for AEW is absolutely abysmal. It's a travesty wreck right now. You know, you got Penta, he's going over to WWE. Phoenix wanting to get the hell out of there. You know, there is no tag team division right now for AEW. I know they just, recently signed a couple months ago, they signed the Von Erichs. Yeah, I hopefully we get to see the Von Erichs on AEW television and not just Ring of Honor. Because right now, AEW needs a tag team division, and they don't have it. They just don't. I mean, I don't consider Brian Cage and Lance Archer a premier tag team for AEW. They need solid tag teams in AEW. And at one point, AEW had the best tag team roster in all of professional wrestling, and right now, they have the weakest. You know, do I think it's a shame they didn't push Private Party? Absolutely. But again, in their defense, or at least in AEW's defense, who are they going to push them up against? There's no other tag team out there that they're pushing to make a significant, opposition to Private Party. Being a heel, tag team, there's nothing. Where's the grizzled young veterans that came into AEW? Aren't they signed to AEW? Where the hell are they? There's no tag team division right now at AEW. So those belts, no offense, mean absolutely jack shit. I know Buddy Matthews and Brody King, they had that video package. Looks like they're going to come back as the Hellhounds. And it does look as if Malachi Black is leaving AEW and possibly going back over to WWE. It does seem as if they're done. Malachi Black is officially done with AEW. And he's heading back over to WWE. And rightfully so. They didn't know what to do with the House of Black. And now it's just Brody King and Buddy Matthews. And maybe they could be a strong fixation on the tag team division right now, because the tag team division in AEW is just a fucking disaster. It honestly is, man. And, I do feel bad for Private Party, because they hot potatoed that championship like it was nothing. Right over to the Hurt Syndicate, because right now they're the bigger name, and right now, Tony Khan and AEW are pushing two guys that are pretty much at the age of 50 right now that used to be former WWE talent. And they're not focused and fixated on the talent that they brought in the beginning of AEW to bring them up to big superstars. That's what I mentioned, I think last week or 2 weeks ago. AEW doesn't know how to build stars for the future, man. They don't. And, AEW is turning into pretty much a WWE, graveyard at this point, because they're taking people from WWE that WWE had no aspirations for and had no way to build them up, because there was nothing left for them to do with these certain talents. It's the same thing with Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett's 57 years old, and Tony Khan and AEW are pushing this guy to the moon because this is the last final ride for the last Outlaw. And they're trying to compare him to John Cena's final farewell tour. Well, with all due respect to Jarrett, yeah, he might be 12-time world champion. Compared to a guy who's John Cena, who's one of the greatest of all time to ever do this in this sport, who currently is tied for the with the record with Ric Flair with being 16-time world heavyweight champion, who could possibly break that record this year. And I'm sorry, but Jeff Jarrett can't lace John Cena's boots, man. I'm sorry. It's the same thing with Sting, when Sting had his retirement tour. Obviously, yeah, did he get a huge push from the audience last night? Yeah, because obviously they were in Knoxville, Tennessee. And Jarrett is from the great state of Tennessee. So obviously he's going to get the fan attention because he's from the state of Tennessee. But other than that, I genuinely, and it's not just my personal preference, man. There's a lot of people that are pissed off with the Jeff Jarrett situation. And the fact that here it is, 2025, and we're pushing a guy who's 57 years old who hasn't done shit in AEW, but this guy is going to try to get himself an AEW title opportunity against Jon Moxley. That's what we're doing in 2025. And you got one of the biggest stars that have ever been created from AEW possibly having a match, or a story, if they want to call it that, with Jarrett and MJF. I said this 2 weeks ago, bro. Once MJF's contract's up, he's fucking gone. There's nothing left for this guy to do in AEW. There's really not. He's not going to settle for a TNT title, or the Continental title, or the International title. No, he wants the Triple B. He's the longest reigning AEW champion since the company's been in existence. Multi-time Dynamite ring winner. And there's nothing else more for this guy to do. And at this point, he became such of a big star in AEW that it could be that ultimate gut punch for AEW, where if this guy leaves, it's completely over for AEW. Because there's a lot of people that still watch AEW solely on MJF. Do I think Omega can save this company? No, I do not. I don't, and I mentioned that when he returned to AEW, coming back from diverticulitis. I don't think Omega is the guy to save this company. I don't, because at this point, Tony Khan has took his foot off the gas pedal with AEW, and he put that shit in cruise control, and he's going to coast through 2025 with this shit that we're getting week in and week out on every single weekly episodic television show that they have, whether it be Dynamite or Collision. There's no compelling storylines anymore, man. There's not. For the fans to legitimately sink their teeth into and get invested in. No. They're shoving shit in our faces or, throwing ideas against the wall hoping something will fucking stick, and it's not sticking. It's not. Or Tony Khan has a fascination with Jeff Jarrett to the point where he's willing to push this guy to the moon. Jarrett's career is over. And to be honest with you, once Jarrett does retire from full in-ring competition, I genuinely don't think anybody's going to really give a shit whether the guy's there or gone. To be honest with you. You know what I mean? I understand what he's done and what his family has done for professional wrestling. I understand that. I acknowledge that. But he's not his dad. He ain't Jerry Jarrett. Jerry Jarrett gave a lot of people many opportunities in the professional wrestling world when he was running his own promotion. And he was successful. He did a great job running his promotion. Absolutely. And his promotion was working with World Class. I think he even might have purchased World Class when World Class Championship Wrestling was being sold, if I'm not mistaken. So, obviously the Jarrett family has been in the professional wrestling business for a long time, but if you look at Jeff Jarrett as an individual, my standpoint remains the same, bro. His WWE career in the beginning was shit. The Double J and the Roadie, that shit wasn't going to work. It just wasn't. He was trying to be a carbon copy of Ric Flair with the strut and the figure four leg lock. It just wasn't going to work. And then, like I said, and I stand behind this too, Jarrett's best in-ring work that he has ever done in his professional wrestling career is what he did in TNA. But you got to look at the narrative here. He was also, I believe, head booker for TNA when TNA was being run with Dixie Carter, if I'm not mistaken. And that was Jarrett's best run as far as in-ring work in his career, was his tenure in TNA. Absolutely. His WCW run was absolute shit. Absolute shit. And I will argue that to the moon. Because they didn't put the belt on Jarrett until the company was pretty much losing money, bleeding money, and ticket sales were in the toilet, pay-per-view buys were in the toilet. A majority of the roster was already pretty much leaving, going over to WWE at that point, around 2000. So I believe Jarrett became champion. If I'm not mistaken, it was like, roughly late 98, going into 99, possibly if not 2000. When this company was in a goddamn toilet, bro. They weren't doing shit. If you guys go back and watch those Nitros from like 99 to 2000, they just weren't doing anything. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't. They weren't producing good television. No one gave a shit. And at that point, the Attitude Era already came in, late 90s, and just took WCW. It took WWE by storm, and it just took over everything professional wrestling because everybody was gravitated towards Monday Night Raw and SmackDown on what they were doing during the Attitude Era. They decimated WCW. And we all saw what happened. Vince bought out WCW. I'll never forget that final Raw. I talked about that briefly, I think, a week or two ago. Might have been last week. This is the same shit that we're getting with AEW. This is rinse and fucking repeat when it pertains to AEW compared to WCW. It's the same shit. And to be honest with you, man, I don't know what happened from 2 years ago to what it's been, for the past 2 years compared to 3 years ago. I don't know what the fuck happened with AEW. I don't know if it's bitterness with Tony Khan, and Tony Khan's pissed off because he lost Cody Rhodes, he lost CM Punk, and he lost Jade Cargill. And maybe my whole opinion about this is that CM Punk was Tony Khan's ace in the hole. And what I mean by that is that when they brought in CM Punk was away from wrestling for 8 years, and they brought Punk back, and they were selling out arenas, and AEW was the hottest ticket in town. And then once Punk left and he got fired from the company because of an altercation that he had stemming from the Elite, and then the final, altercation that he had with Jack Perry, he also, ultimately he got terminated from the company, which I think Punk wanted to get terminated from the company because he didn't want to be there no more. He was already in talks with WWE while he was still under contract with AEW, trying to talk to Vince and Hunter to go back to WWE. And to be honest with you, it's benefited, CM Punk immensely being back with WWE. Absolutely. Christ, he's going to be in the Rumble in February. That Rumble is going to be absolutely incredible. AEW dropped the ball, and I think once CM Punk left, I think that happened. That's with Tony Khan changed. Yeah, we had Sting's retirement match and all this other shit, and I get that. But a lot of shit changed with AEW's product. Absolutely. For what it's worth, Collision went way downhill after Punk left. They literally created that show solely for CM Punk, so he wasn't being on the same arena or involved with the Elite, because the altercation that happened at the all-in or all-out brawl-out between the Elite and CM Punk. So they wouldn't even book them in the same fucking arena because the issues that were stemming from all-out's brawl-out between CM Punk and the Elite. So now that they have this show and CM Punk obviously is going over to WWE, Collision's suffering for it, man. You know, I mean, obviously, shit, this is the dark ages for AEW. Hands down. And it's only going to get worse, bro. I mean, it really is. And I'm not going to sit on here week in and week out like everybody else does and constantly bitches and complains about the same shit that we're getting on AEW week in and week out. Because honestly, at the end of the day, I'm getting tired of sounding like a fucking broken record because everybody is literally saying the same shit week in and week out. The reason why people are saying the same shit week in and week out because we fucking care about this company. There are people out here that invest their time, their hard-working money on this product because they legitimately care about this product and they want the product to succeed. I've been watching AEW just like everybody else is doing this shit since day one. Day one. Before AEW was even a fucking thing. When AEW, when Matt and Nick Jackson and Cody Rhodes and Adam Page and Kenny Omega created the first ever All In, I watched that show. And I knew at that moment that those guys, those boys were onto something. And then here they are, and they formed AEW, and I've been here since day one. I saw the press conference. I saw every fucking thing they've done. And here we are now in 2025, and besides pushing the younger talent that you have, no, we're going to push a 57-year-old Jeff Jarrett to go up against Jon Moxley for the AEW World title. That's what we're doing here. Why? Because you don't know how to push younger talent, and your creative is absolutely fucking tragic. That's where we're at right now. And I told you guys this last week, and I'm going to tell you guys this same shit this week. The fact of the matter is, when you want to watch professional wrestling, the hottest ticket in town for pro wrestling is at WWE. Hands down, bro. Hands down. If you look at the fact that Penta once wrestled for AEW, he was with AEW for what, 4 years, 4.5 years? Him and his brother was a part of the tag team division. The Lucha Bros, they were a great tag team. Okay, and they were, you know, selling merch the best way they can. And then when Penta goes over to WWE, before the fucking guy walks in the goddamn building, his merch was already getting sold out. Before he even stepped foot out in that arena to make his debut that night, his merch was already damn near close to being sold out. There was already people in the fucking arena that night wearing his goddamn mask that they were selling for $75 a pop. So you want to talk about missing the, you know, being behind the eight ball? Tony Khan could have done that shit and they didn't. But then you look at the Rey Fenix situation where that guy's pretty much an AEW fucking purgatory and he can't do shit. Phoenix can't wrestle on the indies. He can't do independent dates. He can't wrestle on the indies. He's not wrestling on AEW Dynamite or Collision. And not only that, Tony Khan was so petty that he pulled the guy's merch and now he's not even making merchandise sales right now. Which is utter bullshit. He doesn't want nobody to do shit, man. He doesn't. Absolutely not. And then, you know, with the Tony Khan situation, then you look at other superstars that are on the roster dealing with the same shit. Recently, Ricky Starks just wrestled for a House of Glory event. Great. Great independent promotion. Fantastic independent promotion. They have banger matches after banger matches on those events. Absolutely. One of the best independent promotions out there. Hands down. So Ricky Starks works this independent, event and then goes back to Tony Khan a couple days later asking for a fucking release out of contract, and Tony Khan said, absolutely not. You're going to stay with AEW and we're going to freeze your contract. For what? You're not utilizing these people. And the fact that the reason why he's doing this, bro, is because Tony Khan has an issue with WWE. And then you hear other superstars, oh, well, these guys need to value their contract. How the fuck can they value the contract and abide by these contracts when the owner of the company is not, A, allowing these people to make money, pretty much not doing what they told these talents that they can do with working independent dates while they're working with AEW, and then certain talents are getting their merch pulled off the merchandise tables so they can't make money. So how is he supposed to value these contracts if you're not willing to use them? And you're doing everything in your power to make his life a living hell while you have him there under AEW contract. And you're supposed to value that contract? Get the fuck out of here. Really? And I'm not going to mention who said that, but if you guys go back and look at some of the, the wrestling news, you're going to find out who said that. Because the guy used to wrestle for WWE and got released not once, but twice from WWE. And now he's on the independent scene because he just wrestled at a GCW event against Josh Barnett. So again, how can someone value the contract and abide by the contract when the owner is not even using them and the guy's fucking healthy? The guy just wants to wrestle and work his dates so he can get the fuck out of Dodge. But you're not allowing him to do that. which keeps him on AEW purgatory where he can't do a fucking thing about it. I feel bad for Phoenix. I feel bad for Phoenix. I feel bad for guys like Ricky Starks. You know, look at Miro. Is Miro still under AEW contract? We haven't seen Miro in, Christ, I don't know how long it's been. You know what I'm saying? Like, what the fuck are you doing here, man? What are we doing? And then people out there, you know, these people that have this, you know, oh, AEW is doing great. Are you fucking kidding me? Really? AEW is doing great. Okay, let's look at the narrative. Let's give you guys some specifics here on why AEW right now is doing so fucking badly. One, they can't even sell out the smaller arenas that they started in January 2025 now. A couple weeks ago, AEW was in Tennessee. That whole arena could hold, what, 4,500 people? They sold, what, 1,500 tickets. They can't even sell out smaller arenas, bro, at this point. So there's that. Ticket sales for these events are in the toilet. Ratings for AEW Dynamite and Collision are in the fucking toilet. Pay-per-view buys for AEW are also in the fucking toilet. Then you look at a situation like that's coming up on the 15th of February. Let's talk about this because this is also something that I also found out, which I thought was absolutely fucking insane with AEW. AEW has a show lined up, and I talked about this briefly, I think, a week ago. AEW has a show lined up in Australia. I think it's somewhere in Australia called Grand Slam. Now, my initial thought, and I even said this, that AEW, the way they had the show lined up, that it was going to be a pay-per-view for AEW. That's not going to happen no longer. That's no longer going to happen. The event will still go on, but it will not be a pay-per-view. Okay, fine. There hasn't been a poster up. There hasn't been a marquee up so far for the past few weeks, anything relatable to Grand Slam. We had one match announced last week, or 2 weeks ago, where it was Toni Storm taking on Mariah May for the AEW World title. And then last night, we get another match announcement, finally, so that makes two matches, where it will be Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega teaming up to take on Kyle Fletcher and Konosuke Takeshita. That's two matches. And this fucking event's right around the goddamn corner. But here's the other flip side of the coin. So, with this Australia show, they had an arena that they booked that could hold 50,000 people to show up at this event in Australia for AEW Grand Slam. They left that arena because they couldn't even get close, remotely even close to selling 50,000 tickets for this goddamn event. So then they moved the event to a smaller arena. Okay. They're hardly even selling ticket prices for that, number one. The other stickler with this is that this event is taking place February, I believe, 15th, if I'm not mistaken, a day after Valentine's Day. But here's my issue with this. They're going to be over in Australia, okay? This event, from what I understand, will not be live or showcased, if I'm not mistaken, or at least live, until about 2:30 in the morning. So basically almost the 16th. From what I've heard from other people that I've talked to, it looks like it's not going to be, live for people until 2:30 in the morning, I believe, on TBS or Max. That's a problem. This is a big... Not only is this a problem, it almost feels like this is an event that AEW is desperately trying to get rid of because they don't know what the fuck they're doing with it, and it's becoming more of a pain in the ass than anything else. And they booked themselves in a corner. I also heard rumors that it might be also Jay White taking on Jon Moxley for the AEW World title again at this Grand Slam show, where he just was in a fatal four-way match where he came up short in that matchup and Jon Moxley still walked out AEW World Champion. Again, the guy lost clean. So why are we're putting him back in this matchup because the guy is from Australia? That's why we're doing this. The massive loopholes that AEW has right now is something that's literally killing this company. And it's bad. And they need to fix it. Because right now, AEW doesn't know what the fuck they're doing. At all. And it's literally crippling this show. And I'm not sitting here, and I mentioned this last week, I'm not in this to, okay, well, everybody's on board of shit on AEW, and Mr. Classic's going to do the same thing. No, Mr. Classic's not going to do the same thing. But I'm going to shoot it to you straight. I'm not going to sit here and bullshit you and say this show is great when this show absolutely fucking sucks. Do I watch it week in and week out? Yes, because I love my job. And I love professional wrestling. But when the shit sucks, the shit sucks. I even heard multiple people say that Tony Khan's turning into the next Vince McMahon. Which, to be honest with you, I can't sit here and argue with that. The way he's booking these shows, as of late, yeah, it's kind of hard to argue that. This guy doesn't give a shit about his own product, man. And the way he's booking these shows, and you can't even book younger talent, you don't belong in the wrestling business. You don't. Because the problem is, he can see AEW just fumble, and it goes away. But you also got to remember, this guy also owns Ring of Honor. This guy's going to try to do whatever he can to stay in the wrestling business, whether AEW fails or not. And right now, AEW is becoming a failure. And I'm telling you guys right now, and I've said this now multiple weeks, there's going to come a time where AEW Dynamite is going to be live, and they only sold maybe 700-800 tickets in an arena that can hold 4,500 people. And that's when shit's going to get real. That's when shit's going to get bad. And at that point, when people see that, then it's going to be too late. It is. Because AEW's turning into a dumpster fire. That's exactly what it's turning into. So many people have left watching this company. They left in droves when it pertains to watching this goddamn company because they can't get invested in the fucking product. Because there's no compelling storylines. You need storylines to get the fans invested in the goddamn product so they can tune in week in and week out to figure out what the fuck is going on. Oh, I can't wait to see next week. I'll figure out who the person was behind this attack or this, that, and the other. They're not doing none of that shit. None of that. Nothing. I mean, nothing that actually gets you invested. That's the problem. That's the ultimate problem. And then you look at the AEW title picture, and it's a fucking joke, man. Darby's off the scene. Darby's climbing Mount Everest. And there's some people saying, well, who knows if he comes back? If he comes back safe, who knows how long it's going to be? Who knows? So Darby is on the shelf until close to July. So there's that. Then you look at the rest of the people looking for the AEW title. You got Jay White, and then you got Jeff Jarrett and MJF. The guy, to me, honestly, I'm surprised they haven't put Adam Page in that picture. Adam Page should be the guy that's going after Jon Moxley because he is the last little hope we got. Do I put a lot of faith in Cope? No, I don't. I do not. You just came back, and now you want an AEW title shot for what? I still, for what I thought, yeah, he had that matchup with Malachi Black in that cage match, but I thought he was going to go back after the TNT title. That was just my thought process. But, again, we didn't get that, and we're not getting that. So, again, Cope is also in line for Jon Moxley's AEW World title. Then we got Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett has a match next week against Claudio Castagnoli, and if he is successful in beating Claudio Castagnoli, he will get his title opportunity. Who wants to see Jeff Jarrett walk around with the AEW World title? Not me. But that's the route, that's what I'm saying, bro. That's the route that we're going. That AEW is going. We're going to push Jeff Jarrett to the moon because, this is the last ride for the Final Outlaw. Give me a fucking break, man. Seriously. Not only is Jeff Jarrett winning the title a disservice to fans of AEW, but even the shit with MJ, it's a disservice to MJF. The fact that he has to have back and forth promos here with Jeff Jarrett. This is your biggest star that you created in AEW. Against a guy who's 57 years old and hasn't really done shit in the past couple of years in AEW. Still holding on to the Owen Hart Cup tournament that he didn't win. And now he's going to go after the AEW World title. And then you want to go, back and forth banter with MJF saying that MJF is a flash in the pan. A one-trick pony. This guy's the biggest wrestler in this entire company. Longest reigning AEW World Champion. But he's a flash in the pan. This guy put AEW on his back and carried this company when no one knew where this company was going. And got fans invested in the fucking product. But he's a flash in the pan. Come on, man. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just one of those things where you got to be realistic. And, and I've said this. Ever since AEW signed this new TV rights deal with Time Warner and Warner Media, there was an ultimate fear, at least maybe possibly just for me. I can't speak for everybody else. But there was this ongoing fear for me is that once they signed this deal with Time Warner, that Tony Khan was going to take his foot off the gas pedal and coast through 2025 for the rest of this TV rights deal. And unfortunately, that's exactly what we're getting here. I don't think this guy legitimately cares about his product anymore. And as time goes on, he's becoming more of a petty boss as time goes on. There's a Britt Baker issue. Now Baker's not on AEW television. There was an altercation between Baker and Tony Khan. Now he doesn't want to put Baker on AEW television. You know what I mean? Ricky Starks, we haven't seen him on AEW television for quite a while. He asked for his release. Tony Khan said no. Miro, haven't seen him. He's still, I think, possibly under contract with AEW. Ray Phoenix. This poor guy can't even make any extra money with AEW because he pulled, Phoenix's merch. He can't work him independent dates. He can't do shit but sit home. Yeah, I mean, it's pathetic, man. And I mean, honestly, people are not stupid. And obviously there's going to be free agents that are going to be roaming around, whether it be WWE, TNA, AEW, or wherever, New Japan, that are going to look at the situation with Tony Khan and how he's handling his current talent right now, and they're going to be like, yeah, fuck no, I'm not going over there. And quite frankly, I can't blame them, man. I can't. You know what? Why work for a guy who's treating his talent like that? Which makes AEW even worse, in a worse situation than it already is because free agents don't even want to work with AEW right now. Where's Camille? Where's that? Was that a flash in the pan? Camille had that little issue with Mercedes, and that was it? Where's Camille? Where's Wardlow? Where's Miro? Where's Ricky Starks? Where's Ray Phoenix? All these guys are in AEW, men and women are in AEW purgatory right now because Tony Khan has some kind of underlying issue with these said talents. And it's just, I don't get it, man. I just don't understand it. I don't. And let me tell you something else. What WWE is doing right now, and especially with the fact that they have this, exclusive partnership now that's been signed, a contract that has been signed with a working relationship between WWE and TNA. WWE is looking to take over, man. What Hunter's doing right now, he's looking to decimate everything that AEW is trying to do and wipe them off the face of the planet. And WWE is looking to sign all their exclusive talent that they have over on AEW. This guy knows what the hell he's doing. There was news that came out that another reason why they signed with TNA or signed a deal with TNA is because eventually maybe WWE is going to purchase TNA and put TNA on different TV networks like Fox or anything else, so it prevents AEW from getting these TV deals. They know what the hell they're doing, man. WWE wants to shut AEW down. And could they do it? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. With the talent they have on that roster right now and the moves they're making with these PLEs and tapping into the international market, yeah, going to Mexico City, having a PLE, France, Puerto Rico, yeah, man. They were just in Germany for Bash in Berlin. It's a global company, bro. And the fan base they have, they're selling out arenas week in and week out with no problem at all. And these are big-ass arenas, considering the fact that AEW can't even sell out music halls right now. That's a problem. That's a huge problem. And it is going to get to a point with AEW that eventually this shit is going to get stale. Especially the fact that we're not getting storylines, bro. It is. You know what I mean? Yeah, we get Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega teaming up. But again, my rebuttal with Omega was after everything that, the Elite did to you, beat the shit out of you, put you on a goddamn stretcher, and sent your ass packing with diverticulitis, you come back, and then your first thing you did back was hand Omega his Continental Championship back after everything the Elite done, and then you get your first match back with, I believe it was Brian Cage, with anything about the Elite, nothing about Jack Perry, nothing. That's what I mean by loopholes, bro. Like, what the fuck are we doing here? These people beat the shit out of you. Jack Perry mocks you with diverticulitis by throwing guts over a birthday cake for Kenny Omega's birthday. Why didn't you want to come back here and beat the shit out of Jack Perry? You know what I'm saying? Where is Jack Perry? Home. Just like the Young Bucks and Okada. But no, we got Kenny Omega teaming up with Will Ospreay to take on Kyle Fletcher and Konosuke Takeshita. That's what I mean by logic gaps. Kenny Omega hasn't had anything to do with Don Callis' family, and Christ, man, for a while. But, he comes back. We're going to rehash this shit again between Don Callis and Kenny Omega. We're going to get Will Ospreay involved. It just doesn't make fucking sense. I can understand Will Ospreay because he's had his hands tied up with Kyle Fletcher. Absolutely. And I wouldn't mind seeing another match between Fletcher and Ospreay, possibly at Grand Slam. Why not? But, again, that story makes sense. There's unfinished business there between Ospreay and Fletcher. Omega has no business right now with the Don Callis family. Even before he left, he was attacked by the fucking Elite. That wasn't the Don Callis family. That was, Matt and Nick Jackson and Jack Perry and Kazuchika Okada. No Don Callis family was involved in that shit at all. So, again, logic gaps. The when, the where, and the why. We're not getting that shit at all with AEW. And it's just, it's killing the company, man. It is. I know there's other people out there, other podcasters out there, and they're all saying the same shit. Because it's true. There's logic gaps. There's no compelling storylines for the fans to get invested into, to sink their teeth into, to want to get them or incline them to watch week in and week out, whether it was Dynamite or Collision. No, because there's nothing to actually get invested in. What you see is what you get. That's what it is now. It's just matches with no logic, no storyline. Yeah, I understand Swerve and Ricochet. I get that. But look how long it took Ricochet to turn heel. And give Swerve a matchup that's at least somewhat meaningful with another superstar, which that match is not taking place for another, 2 weeks on a Dynamite? Why are we not getting that for Grand Slam? There's my other question. Why are we not putting Swerve on the card? You can have Kenny Omega, Ospreay taking on Takeshita and Kyle Fletcher. You would have Mariah May versus Tony Storm, and you got Swerve versus Ricochet. Not a bad card if you ask me, but no, we're not getting that. We're going to save Swerve and Ricochet for a Dynamite episode. You know what I'm saying? Like, I legitimately don't think this guy knows what he's doing anymore, nor does he even give a fuck anymore. Really. Legitimately. I don't. And it's sad. And you see it day in and day out. Week in and week out. And the proof's in the pudding, man. I mean, if you look at ticket sales, like I mentioned earlier, ticket sales and pay-per-view buys, and merchandise sales, everything else, TV ratings, it's all fucking bad. Like, everything with this company is they're in the negative. You know what I mean? There's nothing positive coming out of these shows. Nothing. And it's like, what, I don't even know if there's anything else they can do right now at this point that can save AEW. Jon Moxley comes out to these arenas with that fucking entrance music, and it sounds like the death music of AEW. And it's so fucking brutal. That whole, whatever you want to call that storyline or whatever the hell they're doing there with Jon Moxley, it's so fucking bad that it's almost turning the channel worthy, to be honest with you. Because that whole Death Rider shit's going nowhere. Absolutely fucking nowhere. It is. And not only has it gone nowhere, it's to be honest with you, I don't know who's behind this. It could be, in fact, Jon Moxley is the one that's pulling the strings on this shit. But, if anything, this ain't making Jon Moxley look good at all in AEW. This is making people want to turn away from watching Jon Moxley in any kind of capacity in AEW, whether it's a promo, a segment, or a match itself, because nobody's giving a shit anymore. To be honest with you, man. No one gives a fuck anymore. The story has gone nowhere. It has run its course. It's run its course so bad where people are walking away from this shit and saying that, oh yeah, when their Death Rider music hits, it's the sound of death for AEW. Yeah, no shit. Because the storyline's going nowhere. This shit has been going on since, Wrestle Dream? And it's gone nowhere. Hell, we haven't even got a rebuttal from Bryan Danielson yet. And do they need Bryan? Oh, hell yeah, they need Bryan. Yeah, absolutely. I understand the guy retired from full-time in-ring competition, but he didn't retire fully from competing. Yeah, they need Bryan Danielson back. Absolutely. At least some kind of rebuttal of what happened that night. And I don't think we're ever going to get that. Again, logic gap after logic gap, which is ultimately, again, destroying this company, man. It is. I was all excited for January 2025 with them going over to Max and everything else like that. I thought a new era was coming in for AEW, new excitement. And man, right now the beginning of 2025 for AEW has been in the drizzling shits for the past few weeks, man. It has not been good, and my fear is it's going to progressively get worse as time goes on. To be honest with you, man, and for the people that work over in Warner Media and everything else like that, I mean, bro, you have to be looking at this shit. You have to be, whether it's TV ratings, ticket sales, pay-per-view, you have to be looking at this shit. Because I'm telling you, man, I've said this multiple times. If I was somebody that was an executive working for Time Warner and Warner Media, you're goddamn right I'd be looking into this. To be honest with you. Because they forked out, $500 million for a new TV rights deal, and they're producing shitty television. TV ratings are in the fucking toilet. Pay-per-view buys are not that well like they were a couple years ago. And talent, obviously, are severely frustrated with what's going on with AEW. And I still believe that there's some kind of bullshit still going on backstage within AEW. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I feel as if there's going to be a time and a place where somebody that worked with AEW is going to tell the end-all, be-all of everything that's happened with AEW. Because something's going on. And I think it has a lot to do with Tony Khan. Something is going on that is really, really bad in AEW. And what that may be, I have no idea. But is it looking that way? Yeah, bro, it is. I mean, from the Phoenix to the Stark situation, now Britt Baker, it's something is going on. Absolutely. Because my thing, and again, I can understand, and I'll say this too, with obviously people wanting to leave AEW to go over to WWE, I can agree with if it was Tony Khan actually gave a shit about these people and actually pushed them on television and they still wanted to leave. Yeah, probably he's going to be a little upset. But you're not even pushing these people on television. You're not giving them opportunities. No, you're sitting them at home and you're being petty and pissed off because they want to get the fuck out of AEW. You weren't doing anything with them to begin with. You weren't. House of Black should have been multi-time tag team champions. Malachi Black should have had a singles run, whether it be a TNT title, a Continental title, International title, or hell, even the AEW World title. We didn't get that. At all. Not with Malachi Black. But then you look at Penta and Phoenix. You know, they were former AEW tag team champions, but it got to a point where they didn't know what else to do with them. You look at, another team like Santana and Ortiz, where I believe Ortiz is still employed with the company. I think he's injured. But then you look at Mike Santana. He was obviously a tag team with Ortiz. They were both of them are a part of the Inner Circle, one of the best stables AEW's ever produced. And now Santana and Ortiz split up. They're doing their own thing. And Santana right now is killing it. He's killing it on the indies, and he just had a matchup with Josh Alexander for TNA Genesis. That was an I Quit match. And the match was an absolute banger. That's what I'm saying, man. The funny thing is that these people, these men and women that leave AEW, they're doing way better now where they're at now than what they were doing in AEW. I'm not taking away what AEW's done for these talents. No, they put them on the map. They brought CM Punk back, brought him into professional wrestling. I'm not going to, knock Tony Khan for that. No. Because that would be just stupid. No, they brought him in, and if it wasn't for AEW, who knows if we ever would have saw CM Punk again. So, yeah, there's a lot of, respect owed to AEW. Jade. Jade, I would say somewhat made a name for herself over in AEW, but now she's a bigger star over in WWE. CM Punk, I think, is a bigger star now in WWE than what he was in AEW or his last tenure with WWE. He's immensely over. Look at someone like Cody Rhodes, bro, who left WWE as Stardust, went on the Indies and killed it on the Indies, and then wrestled in Japan and wrestled for Ring of Honor, and then wrestled for AEW, and AEW was on, big-time television, TBS and TNT. And he leaves the company, and now he's over in WWE, and that guy is the current Universal Champion of WWE. He is the face of the company. So, yeah, it benefits a lot of talent going over to WWE because, and again, people like Ricky Starks and other people that want to leave AEW, they see what the fuck is going on right now over in WWE and how they're treating a Cody Rhodes or how they're treating a Jade Cargill or how they're treating a Penta. And they're like, you know what? It's not that goddamn bad over here, man. They're really doing great things. With Cody and Jade and Penta. Yeah, so it might not be that bad, man. It might be a great opportunity to go over to WWE. Yeah. And they're not stupid people, man. They see what the fuck is going on. The treatment that Cody got, the treatment that Jade's got, the treatment that Penta has been getting here. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, and they're looking at their situation in AEW and they're like, man, fuck this shit. I'm going over to WWE. Do I blame them? No. I don't. And for the people that have this tribalism shit with AEW, WWE, you know what? You can kill me with that shit. It's ridiculous. You can kill that whole noise. I think that's complete and utter bullshit because you have to look at the fucking talent, man. I look at the talent. The individual, whether it be a man or a woman wrestler, I look at the talent. Would I like to see him back on AEW television? Sure. But does it mean I'm going to stop watching what they do in professional wrestling because they go over to WWE or TNA or... No, bro. No. And if you're doing that, then you shouldn't be watching wrestling. Because everybody has their favorites, bro. Everybody wants to see, oh, where's this going? I mean, I've said this multiple times about Randy. Randy Savage is still my all-time favorite wrestler of all time, bro. He did his, he wrestled in WWE, had a hell of a run in WWE, some memorable matches, memorable moments. And then when his career started to dwindle in WWE, Vince put him on the commentary team. Randy still wanted to go, and Randy still had time on the tires left to still have another, in-ring career. And then when, Ted Turner came in with WCW, they brought Randy over, and Randy still had some time left on that career, man. He had some great matches in WCW. And I was happy for him. Yeah, I was a little bummed out that he left WWE, but I was excited that, he had another in-ring opportunity for WCW. Absolutely. You can't look at it like that, bro. You can't look, oh, well, you know what, he left he or she left AEW, the hell with them. No, bro, come on. No, because at one time, there was no fucking AEW. It was just WWE, whether you liked it or not. You know what I mean? So again, it gives these superstars other opportunities to wrestle besides just WWE. And that's the other reason why I want AEW to stick around. They have the talent on that roster, man. They do. They really do. Could you imagine with the roster they have if they actually wrote compelling storylines with the roster they have, man? You know, and obviously this change for AEW, if it ever does happen, and hopefully it does, clearly it's not going to happen overnight. It's not. It's going to take time to build up what AEW used to be, or at least somewhat close to what AEW used to be. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take months. It's going to take another year, maybe a year and a half, 2 years to get AEW back to where I'm not looking for an overnight story for AEW to be, oh, you know what, things are for the better. No. It's going to take time, bro. It is. You know, they need a writing team to write compelling storylines, to get the fans invested. You know, the talents that are unhappy, that don't want to be there, let them go, man. You know, you're paying, my thing is, you're paying these people just to sit on their asses at home and not wrestle, where these people want to wrestle. And you're not even given the opportunity to do that. So again, how really can you abide by that contract if you want to work and you're willing to work, but your boss ain't willing to work you? How you supposed to, you know, take pride in that contract? That's my whole personal take on that. You know what I mean? Phoenix is healthy. He's ready to wrestle. But because he said he wanted to leave AEW to go to WWE, oh no, Tony, we're shutting that shit down. We're shutting it down. So much so that you're not working independent dates. We're not even selling your merch no more. And we're not going to showcase you on Dynamite or Collision. Best of luck in your future endeavors. But you're going to be sitting at home until your contract's up. And when I say it's up. That's pretty much what it is, man. You hear everybody talking about this Ray Phoenix situation, and they've all said the same shit. They all legitimately feel bad for Ray Phoenix, as well as I do too. I do. I legitimately feel bad for the guy. Because he sees what Penta's doing right now. Penta had a humongous ovation when he debuted for Monday Night Raw. Even though everybody knew it was going to be Penta going up against Chad Gable. But when his music hit and he entered that arena, the place erupted. The ovation was awesome. He had his family and his kids in the crowd, man, and his daughter's crying. She was so damn happy for her dad to be on WWE. I mean, it was just a wholesome moment, man. It really was. And I was so happy for Penta. He looked so damn excited to be there, and he felt it looked like he was free, man. He had the biggest smile on his face, and he looked legitimately happy to be there. You know, I to be honest with you, I don't blame the guy. I don't, man. I don't. And hopefully Penta has an amazing career, you know, in WWE, and he retires in WWE. Absolutely, because the guy deserves it, man. The guy is a force to be reckoned with. He's a great superstar. He's a great wrestler. You know, could be an ambassador for the sport, to be honest with you. Because people are going to look up to Penta like they did Rey Mysterio. Everybody loved Rey. You know, everybody loved Eddie Guerrero. Penta could be that same kind of guy that Rey and Eddie was. If they really push Penta. And that's a lot of praise, because don't get me wrong, I mean, Rey and Eddie are two Hall of Famers, hands down. And I was a huge fan, still am, of Eddie Guerrero. God rest his soul. But that's a lot of praise for someone like Penta. But Penta can do it. And WWE knows how to push their talent, man, and make compelling storylines to get the fans invested into. And I just wish, I mean, Christ, man, could you imagine, and that's the other thing, too, you know, I always think about this. Could you imagine, for just 1 second, and think about this for 1 second and let it sink in. Could you imagine if, in a fantasy world, obviously, that Triple H went over to AEW and wrote for one of their shows for a month straight? Could you imagine, with the talent that's over in AEW right now, and if, you know, Triple H and his writing team wrote for AEW for a month straight, how crazy AEW would be with that roster? Let that sink in, bro, because I think about that all the time, and it gives me goosebumps, man, because, wow, imagine what he could do with a roster like that over in AEW. It's crazy. You know what I mean? Imagine it like a Worlds Collide event with WWE and AEW. And Triple H wrote the show. And booked the show. It'd be absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. Are we ever going to get that? No. I think the closest thing we'll ever get that is if AEW shuts down and all those talents, is a mass exodus of talent from AEW and they go over to WWE. I think that's the only way that actually happens. But, I mean, that would be absolutely insane. For all those talents to go over to WWE, I would not be shocked if AEW doesn't get shut down. No, and the way they're going and the route they're going right now, no, absolutely not. And if you're a fan of professional wrestling, man, you know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about. This company is clueless, and right now AEW is in the dark ages right now for their wrestling company, and hopefully there's something they can do to fix this. Because if not, bro, it's over. It's going to be over. And then by the time people realize it's over, it's a done deal. There's no bounce back from that. But hopefully, AEW can change that, and hopefully AEW can go back to what they once were. And I've said this multiple times, man. Go back to what brought you to the dance. You know what I mean? To be honest with you, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And what AEW once had in the first 3 years of the company's existence, it was the hottest ticket in town. And my thing is, people are saying, "Oh, you know what? If AEW is truly the number 2 company in the world for professional in the States for professional wrestling, it's hard. It's really hard to convince me that they are, to be honest, at this point right now. It is. I just wish AEW went back to what they once did. Yeah, change is good. I'm not saying change is bad, but man, you don't have to change everything. You know what I'm saying? And again, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. At one time, AEW was the hottest ticket in town. They really were. And now it's almost getting to a point where it's hard to watch anymore. Because how bad the shows are being booked, and the fact that we got no compelling storylines for us fans to actually get invested into week in and week out. And hopefully AEW can change it, hopefully in the foreseeable future. Because if not, this company is not going to survive. But with that being said, this is my review of AEW